PCEF Grant Committee meeting. We will be meeting from 12 to 1 o'clock today. If we could move to the next slide. Our virtual participation checklist is that the committee meeting is open to the public. We will have public comment at 12:05. Our guidelines for today is the chat box. Please use that to introduce yourself. And if you are interested in talking during the public comment section, at all other times, the chat will not be responded to. It's just a place where PCEF staff will host. For committee members only, please use the raised hand function. Video is for committee and presenters only. And while you're providing public comment, please mute your microphone. As you just heard, the recording is in progress and closed captioning is also current as well. Our agenda for today will be, as I said, at noon, we will have a general overview and introductions of committee members. At 12:05, we will have public comment. On 12:15, we will move into the proposed changes to PCEF code to allow the use of PCEF's interests as a one-time basis. At 12:25, we will discuss proposed code recommendation regarding PCEF committee review of future code amendments, and that is an action item, meaning the committee members will take a vote. And the second action item will be at 12:45, where there will be a recommended nomination for Tracy Smith to become part of the PCEF committee to replace an outgoing committee member, Michael Eden Hill. So at this time, I will just go down the list. First one I see on my screen is Paul. If you could come on video and say hello.
Afternoon, everybody. Paul Lumley, committee member.
D'Angelo.
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button for a second. D'Angelo Moaning, committee member. Good to see everybody.
Faith.
Hi there. I'm on the phone, so I'm not going to come on video. But Faith Graham, committee member. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Robin.
Good afternoon. Robin Wayne, committee member. Be him.
Michael.
Good afternoon, Michael Eden Hill, committee member.
Alicia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Alicia Chapman, committee member.
Ranfis.
Hi, everyone. Rainfeast Gentino Viatoro, he, him, committee member.
Maria.
Hello, Maria Sippin, they or she pronouns, PCEF committee member.
All right, I hope I didn't miss anyone. And now we'll move.
Tracy, you missed, I don't really care that much,
sorry.
but you missed me, so I'll just say, hey, everybody. Good afternoon, Megan Horst, co-chair and committee member, she, her pronouns.
Sorry, Megan, about that.
No worries.
I see you front and center. All right. So now we'll move over to public comment. And if you're interested in providing public comment, do so by raising your hand, or please indicate your interest through the Zoom chat function. For those joining the meeting by phone, please enter *9 on your phone to indicate your interest in providing public comment. And please remember to limit your comments to 2 minutes. I'm going through. Sam, I'm just checking. I don't see anyone online who has their hand raised for public comment.
That's correct, confirming that.
All right, then we'll move on to the next agenda item. and that is the update on proposed PCEF code amendments.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully my internet's been a little unstable today, but I'm calling this one in, so I should be able to have some stability. But I'm gonna break things down. It's really, I broke it down here on the slide here to start with one. We'll go through, which is the first piece is going to be largely an update. It's really sharing information out to the committee and out to members of the public around the proposed changes to the PCEF code in order to enable the use of PCEF interest on a one-time basis. So I want to make sure everyone understands what that is. This was proposed by the mayor's office as part of the current budget process. And so that is currently going to be heading towards, as part of the broader budget process, heading towards City Council next week. So one, we'll just ground you all on that. And then the second will be an action item before this committee today, which is a proposed code recommendation regarding the PCEF Committee's review of future code amendments. And that is in something that was discussed by this committee last month in your May committee meeting and in prior small group meetings. And so that's something that you all discussed, but we've got the refined language here that we shared with you all late last week after some feedback and input from the city attorney's office. And so the first will really be an update so that folks know what this first piece, and the second item will be the primary action item before you all. So next slide. All right. And so the update is largely, this is the specific language, and this is for those that are attending, joining us as members of the public on our committee meeting page. There is the full text of the code language that captures where this would sit within the PCEF code, chapter 7.07 of the city code. So the language here, and it specifically, and I'll read it out, but this is what is going to be headed to the city council as part of the broader adoption of the budget. But it just states that notwithstanding the purpose of subsection 7.07.0020A, that the funding criteria within the code that the city council may allocate funding for this current fiscal year, the next fiscal we're about to enter into as of July 1st, they may allocate funding for expenditures that are less than or equal to the actual interest earned from the PCEF funding, from the PCEF fund in fiscal year 22-23. And they can allocate that funding for any needs determined by the council. So that is what was worked into the budget process, and the actual amount of the interest is recorded in the city's audited annual comprehensive financial report. So it's specifically stated this way so that it's clear that it's on a one-time basis that council is doing this, but this is something that will be headed as part of the mayor's package that will be headed before city council as part of the omnibus budget package that they will review next week. So that's just the update for folks to know the language and mainly to clarify sort of how this looks and reads so folks are tracking the nature of this being a one-time maneuver. And then, and so I know that as part of this, we'll move into the next slide, but I want to maybe first just pause here, see if there are any questions about any clarifying questions, really importantly, around this text before I move us into the second set of language, which has been the substance of what this committee has been deliberating and working on over the past month.
I don't see a raised hand function, so I'm going to raise my hand. So just so folks know who are visiting here what the language means, the subsection 7.07.020.A, that sets up the parameters for the use of the funding that we normally do as a course of regular business. And then this proposed change they're having, that first word notwithstanding, means that they don't have to follow that. So just want to make sure people understand what that means.
Thank you, Paul. That's correct. That's exactly right. That essentially that as this entire section is allowing the use of PCEF interest for any expenditure as determined by the city council for this coming fiscal year, and it's the interest that was accrued to the fund in fiscal year 22-23, but for any purposes. So that is absolutely correct, Paul.
And I know we talked about this in a previous meeting, the interest earned on the income. Well, it might have another status. The city could not use the funds as they're proposing here without this code change. Could you explain the differences between the revenue that comes in and the interest that's earned on the revenue, and why it does have a separate status, if at all?
I think what this language does, historically, the interest on the fund, we have two revenue lines that populate the fund and the funds that we use for PCEF. We have our incoming clean energy surcharge revenues, and then we have the interest that accrues on the fund. Both of those are incoming revenues, and then we have all of our expenditures for all of our various expenses. And so that's the way it has been historically used. In this particular amendment, this is allowing the use of that interest in a different way, which is allowed. You just need to clarify that because of there's broader other practices that generally administratively that define how interest accrues to funds. And so this is essentially specifically peeling it out for this particular fiscal year, so it can be used differently than historically it has been used. And I'm giving you, let me be clear, I'm giving you my understanding. I'm sure that there's two different interpretations, but I think I just want to make sure that folks understood what was historically happening and what this amendment here is going to allow. That's what I want to make sure I'm clearly speaking to.
Megan?
Yeah, Sam, you asked for clarifying questions, and mine's not exactly, but kind of along the spirit of what Paul's doing, and just this is our kind of public meeting about this, the second one. And yeah, just to remind committee members or let public know or just kind of share publicly some realities here. Like as Sam has explained, we as committee actually didn't have power over the interest before. So like city council can choose to do this. So partly we've sort of forced our role in getting to weigh in a little, but that's why it's just a FYI update and not really for us to vote on. The city attorney did weigh in on this language and has kind of vetted it. And I think one thing that Ranfis and I feel, so a couple things. I mean, yes, as stewards of the PCEF fund, as the PCEF advisory committee, it is painful to see any amount of money be used in ways that aren't like completely, totally aligned with PCEF. So I share that folks might feel that way. And I feel good about the limitations written in this code and that it's a one-time use of interest just from 2022 to 2023, that we're requiring kind of an explanation around it. Like I feel good about a lot of the limitations. And, we as the PCEF committee we have been in a tricky political situation this year with a fund that has more money than expected and in a dire budget crisis. So I think we find ourselves in a political moment where this has been a bit of a compromise that goes alongside the next thing we'll be making a decision on. And I personally, as co-chair, having been involved in a lot of this, feel decent about kind of the two pieces coming together, this limited one-time use of interest, and then this other piece coming up of kind of putting a little bit more teeth in our review of any code changes going forward. So that's kind of my elaboration on the point here.
I should have you share that first, Megan. That's helpful context. So we can roll back to this, but what I want to do then is move to the next slide, and we'll roll back this. But I think they're related, right? And I think this is an opportunity, and they're coming together. But related to this has been this broader discussion that I know this committee has had around the role of this committee. This committee, absent anything, always has the power to make recommendations on changes to the program's code language in order to ensure that it is functioning effectively. However, the discussion, I think, starting in May and earlier has been the desire to see stronger language that really brings the committee as an essential part of any, not just the ability to proactively recommend changes, but to also be able to review any other code changes if they come from any other entity, which primarily is going to be city council. And so this language here is, it has been refined with input from the city attorney's office. It is proposed language that requires the committee's review of future proposed code amendments prior to council consideration. And so this now is an action item before you all for recommendation. And the specific language you all will be recommending is that the City Council amend the PCEF code so that it includes this specific language under subsection G, under Portland City Code 7.07050. And it specifically states, if amendments to this chapter are initiated by City Council, the proposed amendments will not be placed on the council agenda until the committee has reviewed the proposed amendments at a regular or special committee meeting. And so this was, I think this was what Megan was sort of teeing off, and that this sets the stage for bringing the committee closer into any future review of any proposed code changes and making you all central to that part of the process, in the future. Similarly here, clarifying questions, and obviously I've not heard that. This would be the action item before you all. Like the prior amendment language you read is going to be brought forth to council by the mayor's office.
Paul?
Thank you for all the background information, and sort of piggybacking on Megan's comments about this tricky situation that we're in right now, and we've been here before. The process the city is at with their budget approval process is we're towards the end here, and they are relying upon the use of these funds to balance their budget. So the situation we're in is, do we want to assert ourselves to do something different or in the alternative? And so the options are, as always, like to do nothing, to oppose the city's code change language or accept it, or propose alternative language or some other sideboards of some kind. So those are the options before us. And I would rather personally and professionally would rather not allow the funds to be used in a manner that isn't necessarily comporting with the sideboards we have already in the code change language. But the reality is that the city is going to be doing a code change language soon. And so that's the situation we're in. And I don't like being here. But at the same time, if there's a way that we can protect the fund from the future, from maneuvers like this, I think it'd be better for all concerned.
Megan?
We have a little pattern going, Paul and me, although Ranpeace, I hope you'll chime in after I say something. And then any and all committee members, please. But yeah, Paul, totally. I track and resonate a lot with what you say here, what you just said. And I'll just share a little bit more about this particular code language. I mean, Sam shared, but we did go back and forth with the city attorney on this language and with higher levels of BPS staff, and Ranpeace and I feel like after our last discussion in May as a committee, we talked about this being a speed bump. I think, Faith, that might have been your praise. And like, is it a good enough speed bump? Is it a big enough one? And we thought, that this is a relatively significant speed bump we're suggesting as an addition in the code here, and that the language is like, in the future, if a city council pursues any code change, they'll have to run it by us, where that hasn't been explicitly clear in the past. And we have until the committee has reviewed the proposed amendments at a meeting, kind of that kind of specific language. So it's not just like, unless committee says something. So, I definitely heard committee members and they're like, is this does this have any teeth or meaning in it? And I think it does. And I think it's kind of the trade-off with the earlier slide of like, going forward, we're adding this robustness. So kind of to Paul's point of like, we have choices here. We're not really being asked to weigh in on the prior slide about what the interests are, but we can, as some code changes are going forward, propose this one. And so that is where kind of Ranpeace and I steered us towards after your all input last time. And I look forward to hearing from others of you.
Faith?
I'm surprised I'm up already. I thought I saw their hands. Yeah, I just thank you for that, Megan. That's super helpful context. And I just wanted to reiterate from the language I just looked at on the screen, this really is, it'll come before a public meeting of the committee, not that the committee has to approve it and not that it has to do anything, take any action on any future council code change proposal, but that it will be in front of the public via a committee meeting. And actually for me, that's important, that we don't have to take action on it, because I'd hate for us to be in a position where we had to take action on the current proposal, for example. And so I do think it's a good speed bump, and I'm happy with the way the language came out, and really appreciate all the hard work, Megan and Ranfis, that you put in for this as well. Thank you.
Ranfis?
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Faith and Paul and Megan. I think again, what we're trying to do here is capture, I think, what we think is the best practice for how council should engage with us as council discusses or thinks up a future amendments to the code to go through us. I think we're always reserved the right to, whenever we choose, to provide recommendations to council on code changes that already exists in code. But I think, again, what we're trying to do here is highlight this opportunity of what we would consider a best practice. It is a speed bump, as been articulated. And I think, again, I think I just want to acknowledge just the opportunity here. It's not given every day like that we're given an opportunity to incorporate an amendment here. So I think it's an important muscle here within PCEF that we have, that we're having the opportunity through cooperation from the mayor and the council level just to incorporate a potential amendment. So just want to kind of sort of recognize that opportunity here. But yeah, just want to pause there and kick it over to Maria.
Maria?
Thank you. I just want to close out my comments on the matter from the last time and from what I shared in our last meeting when the earlier version of this amendment was previewed to the public. This PCEF code change is an action that's part of a citywide budgeting situation that has many impacts on PCEF, even if it's just one time. So I'm hopeful in future processes that for developing the city budget, the public can be a more active participant in shaping the budget, aside from testifying or protesting council decisions that are made with minimal public collaboration. We're in this important moment as Portlanders and as climate justice advocates who are paying closer attention more than ever to how government spends money and what is being prioritized in the budget for the next fiscal year. I just want to appreciate how people have weighed in to the Portland Clean Energy Fund to share their concerns and desires to shape the future of this fund, and how people have also weighed into the city budgeting process and connecting all those dots. Thanks.
Sam, I'm turning it back to you. There aren't any additional hands up.
So I think what I would do now is just, if we move to the next slide, Rachel, this is just, I think the next slide is going to just do a quick preview of decision making. And then what we'll do as we walk through that is we'll pull this draft proposal back, see where committee members are at, and we can do a quick round. So Rachel, if you can move to the next slide, then we'll check in. And I know my internet may be in and out, so I might not. Are you all seeing the decision making?
It should be on where it has the draft language.
So this is, oh no, move to the next, well, the next slide on how we do our decision making. So just as a quick reminder, and then we'll get it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
It's up, that slide is up now, Sam.
There we go. Okay, beautiful. So I think all we'll do then is before we go back to the previous slide, we'll just, we already drafted the proposal language before you all. I think it's, Tracy, if we go back, we'll just do a quick temperature check around the committee and see if any additional discussion is needed. If through the temperature checks, everyone's indicating comfort making a decision, then we'll go back and have someone make the proposal and then circle around and see where folks are at.
All right, Maria, kicking off the temperature check with you.
I can move forward with the committee on what they want to decide today.
Ranfis?
I support. I just want to be clear what we're talking about is just this specific language that's before us right now. But yeah, support.
Faith,
Sorry about that. I support.
Megan,
Yeah, I've already shared a lot of my kind of background. So, and like an additional thing that I'm not sure at least I didn't say, that this is like more teeth than most committees of our kind have at the city too. So I feel also good about that. So I do support.
Paul,
I support the language here that's being proposed to add the committee and to the mix for any future code amendments. But just to be clear, we are not taking action on the city's proposed language. Is that correct? As a separate matter entirely?
Yeah, I just want
Correct.
Go ahead, Sam, but I think they're separate right now.
Okay, thank you. I support this.
Correct. And we'll make sure someone reads it out, but correct. We'll get
Yeah,
to
and
that, but it's specifically, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I would
Sam.
I would still like to come back to the other question, but for this one, yes, I support this language.
Robin,
I support.
D'Angelo,
I support the proposed language.
Michael,
I support the proposed language.
Alicia,
I support the proposed language.
So then I think if everyone for the temperature checks pretty much gave their decisions, but let's for the record at least have a committee member should read the proposal here, and then we can. And I think we've starting with the bold text I propose, and then we can go around and make sure we got it clear for the record.
Sam, let me clarify. You're asking committee members to read this draft proposal?
I was, yes, seeing that last bit as a temperature check to see if any further discussion was warranted on this piece. Yep.
So Sam, you're asking for somebody to read what's on the screen here as a motion?
Bingo, correct, Paul, to make the motion on the proposal. That's right. That's right.
Megan?
I mean, I can do that. I propose the PCEF Committee recommend City Council amend the PCEF Code Chapter 7.07 to include the following language under PCC 7.07050. I'll read it out loud just to be really clear, y'all. G, if amendments to this chapter are initiated by City Council, the proposed amendments will not be placed on the council agenda until the committee has reviewed the proposed amendments at a regular or special committee meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Paul. All right. Sam, do we want more discussion here? Or move to the vote?
We're good to move to the vote.
All right. Megan, I'll start with you.
I approve. Is that I approve?
Michael?
I agree.
Alicia?
I agree.
Faith?
I approve.
Paul?
I agree.
Maria?
Yes, agree.
Robin?
I approve.
D'Angelo?
I approve the presented motion.
Branfees?
Approve.
All right, I believe that it has passed.
Correct, we got it. So what we'll do next on this here, before we move to the next agenda item and see if there's any other pieces to go back to, is next we'll forward this on to the mayor's office. So this will be this will head before City Council next Wednesday, June 12th, as part of the broader omnibus budget package. And that's the specific language here. Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that the language the city council has proposed, we are deciding not to take action on that. And in the alternative, we are providing this other language. So I just want to make sure that that was understood by everybody. Thank you.
I'm seeing nodding heads, but I want to see if just maybe have the co-chairs chime in, but that's my understanding, Paul. I'll say that, but I want to see if anyone else has anything else to say there.
Yeah, I'll chime in as a co-chair and just say, I think, I think we're always, I just want to just level set and always say, like, look, as a committee, I think we should always expect that we are empowered to make our recommendations to council at any level. So just first and foremost, that's what I believe or how I would interpret the code. But what I would also say is, I think we also have to recognize every given challenge that's being set before us. So I think, if we do weigh in on this city-led code amendment as it relates to the budget, I think want to make sure we can strive to consensus on what those changes are. Two, that we recognize, that we're talking about another roadblock here for what is likely the approved budget. So that interest rate, it has a dollar figure. That's a dollar figure. If we make a recommendation, that's not going to, I think, may or may not be incorporated by council. B, may be incorporated by council, but I think agencies will, and the mayor and the council will be struggling to figure out the budget gap for the interest rate. So I think there's just different scenarios. I think it's important to just kind of level set here. I think it was important as a co-chair just to provide a recommendation to council, or to this committee here, that we receive the update that's transparent to us. But unless we feel like there's going to be consensus on this issue, I think air our grievances, but not take a formal action. That's just my recommendation, but I'll defer to others if folks want to review or take an official position on the code. But again, I think my concern here is just our ability to reach consensus on this issue. I hope that's satisfying an answer there, Paul and others. But again, I want to say, we always have the ability to weigh in. It's a matter of, again, will it be factored in? Won't it be factored in? Are we being clear-eyed about the potential outcomes in every scenario that we plan?
I'm fine with this approach. I just wanted to clarify that we are not taking action, and in many contexts, including here, no action is an action, and I'm ready to move on. The rest of the committee is.
Are there any further questions on this and before we move on? All right, Sam.
All right. Next up, then let's move us a couple of slides ahead. All right. So new committee members, you all have the interesting task, interesting, fun, and I think task, and it takes time to go through the task. But when a committee member resigns, or a member's term expires or is up for expiring, the committee has the responsibility for recommending a replacement member. The mayor has to consider the committee's recommendation when appointing new committee members, and then ultimately the mayor appoints committee members with the city council confirming that appointment. So this particular position was for Michael Hill, who's part of the OG, the original committee, who has decided not to seek out a second term and has graciously stood with us for many months after his term has expired as part of this process rolled on. So I know that we're going to have a moment here in the next meeting, because it's going to take a minute to get Tracy on board as we move her through the city council process. But we'll have to find our moment to give our kudos, our thanks, and our appreciations and acknowledgement for everything Michael has provided this committee over the past almost 5 years, and I know that has been invaluable. And so I'd like to make sure we can do that another meeting when everyone's prepared for that. But in this immediate moment, the call was to bring on a new member onto the committee with demonstrated experience in the field of commercial renewable energy and energy efficiency. And in the recruitment subcommittee, we had Maria, Paul, and Ramses. That application period ran from January through March. We received about 18 applications and conducted interviews with the highest scoring applicants on May 3rd, which brings us to this recommendation here. And so I'll turn it to the next slide and then maybe turn it over to one of the subcommittee members just to share their reflections on the process and the individual. So next slide. So the candidate before you all that rose to the top was Tracy Scott. I'll just read this. I've had the fortune of getting to work with Tracy over the past year and some change, and Tracy serves as the Director of Energy Programs at the Energy Trust of Oregon, has a tremendous depth of experience in residential commercial energy efficiency programs, was a previous program director for TRC Companies, which works on multifamily buildings and has done that work on behalf of the Energy Trust of Oregon, and has worked across the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic, and brings a depth of experience also working with public housing, workforce development, neighborhood safety, tenant rights, and other activities both in local government as well as within the public housing sector within the city of St. Louis some time ago. So I will turn it, I just wanted to make sure folks know that Tracy brings much more. I know as committee members, you all have a resume and background. But I want to turn it over to the subcommittee that had the fortune of working through the applications to maybe speak a little bit about the process. Hope I didn't take any of your air out, but I'll turn it over to Maria.
That's all right. Thanks, Sam. The recruitment trio, as you heard, Paul, Ramses, and I were part of this, and we recommend nominating Tracy to the full PCEF committee here. We received those 18 applications. Thanks, Rachel, for helping us gather all of that. And we interviewed 3 people whose qualifications matched our search criteria, and they scored the highest. So PCEF staff also participated in some vetting and an additional review to check in with the candidate. We had some standard questions for all 3 candidates that explored their interest in PCEF, how they would connect their role as a committee member with council and communities that they identified they relate with, and probed around with some questions about their details, more details about their relevant work experience. So we recommend to the entire committee, Tracy Scott to this particular position of commercial renewable energy and energy efficiency project seat, which Michael Eden Hill occupied all these years. And if Ramses or Paul want to jump in with anything else, feel free to do so.
There were so many wonderful candidates, and it's hard to choose one. In this particular position, it's a very specific role, but there's some more other candidates out there that were really great, and I hope that we can hold on to their applications for future consideration. But
Yeah,
Tracy's
cool.
Scott's amazing.
Sorry, Paul. Yeah, I just want to chime in and just share similar sentiments with Paul shared. Like it's always amazing how many great applicants, folks with depths of experience. And I think it's always difficult to choose. And I wouldn't change anything different from each and every one of our applicants. I think just to speak on Tracy, I think Tracy just fit the moment and what we need in the committee. And I think kudos again to Paul and Maria, Rachel, just doing a lot of the legwork here on just giving care and due diligence on this process, and appreciate the outcome.
So maybe this is where I will share before. I'm eager and excited in many ways to give Michael back some of his evenings fully and spare him from all of certainly my emails. But we will find in our next committee meeting, we'll make sure we acknowledge and spend time just acknowledging Michael's contributions, both as first chair and the 5 years and then some of our work on this body. But in addition to that, we will now turn around and begin working on getting Tracy through City Council. And so we'll give you all an update of when that is and when we've got a date for her to head before our City Council so that we can get her officially appointed to the committee. So I want to thank Michael, you for all the work, and we'll have more time to do that. But certainly I want to thank Ramfis, Maria, and Paul for your work on the recruitment subcommittee. And we'll have many more conversations here in the coming months as we onboard Tracy and get her situated. And as you all know, and this is one of our conversations Tracy and I had regularly, were just given the close overlap in the work of Energy Trust, just being clear around how we're communicating conflicts of interest and whatnot. So we'll be working through all of those pieces in the coming little bits. But I want to just thank you all for that. And then I think what we have is similar to the last agenda item. We've got a proposal here on the next slide for a committee member to carry.
I suppose that I could propose that the PCEF committee recommend Tracy Scott to Mayor Wheeler and the City Council for appointment to the PCEF committee.
Second.
I'll second that.
Sam, do you want to do a pulse check or move to a vote?
I think we're ready to move to a vote.
All right, Maria,
I approve.
Michael,
I approve.
D'Angelo,
I approve.
Paul,
I approve.
Ramfis,
I approve.
Megan,
I approve.
Robin,
I've had the opportunity to also work with Tracy, and I wholeheartedly approve.
Faith.
Ditto on that. I will miss you so much, Michael. And I'm glad that we'll get another chance to celebrate you. And I have worked with Tracy for years in Portland, and very excited to have her on the committee as well. So I approve. Thank you.
Alicia.
I approve. Great addition.
All right, Sam, that passes.
Okay. So I think we will be happy to give you all back your time. That brings the end of our meeting. I think the couple things while I have your ears is stay tuned. We've got our regularly scheduled meeting for July is scheduled for July 18th. As we're going through, and I see raised hands, so I'll close out my sentence quickly here, but as we're going through the review process for the Collaborating for Climate Action funding opportunity, you'll see an email from me later this week. We will be updating the timing on that given the volume of applications we received. We received over about 55 applications requesting close to $2.4 billion in funding. And so given the scale, we've been fine tuning that and so we will be revising that timeline. You'll see that shortly, and then we'll communicate that more broadly to the public. But we will also be, just because we know summer is a busy time, we'll be checking in later this week around your availability to adjust that July meeting out further by a week. And I suspect that may be the appropriate time window to appropriately acknowledge Michael. And so we'll make sure that it's a date that works certainly for you, Michael. We'll just putting that on your radar, and then we'll probably also be looking out for just another in-person gathering to more appropriately also thank Michael in a personal setting.
Megan.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, I wasn't trying to hurry you up. That was helpful additional comments, but mainly just, I'm glad we have future times to acknowledge you, Michael, because I don't want to just sort of quickly just I'm excited for Tracy. And Michael, I think you're the original 5, and we've a long time together. So I'm looking forward to a little bit more, public accolading of you, but it does feel like a pretty momentous occasion to, close out your era with PCEF. As like on the launch team of the committee. So look forward to coming back to celebrating you. And then just also, we did put a bug in Sam's ears, co-chairs and committee members, to get a little schedule of like, what are the committee members' terms and how can we kind of proactively plan ahead? Because, that's just how this committee works, is we're going to have this constant like relay race, I guess it is, of committee members turning over and new ones coming on. And it would be good to be able just to kind of have a sense of all those turnovers and timing coming up. But Michael, I look forward to, some more public accolading of you at our final meeting.
Ramfis.
Well, I can't wait, and I'll just break the rules. Michael, you're definitely going to be missed in this committee. So just a preview for our next meeting. Appreciate your advocacy for workers and community always willing to ask the tough questions, always willing to make us stop, think. I think I'll call you the original speed bump in the process for sure. I think we all imbue that sort of practice here when we can. But again, for someone who been through an apprenticeship program, been an electrician, like we're gonna miss just your insights that we're gonna miss deeply here in this committee. So just want to just give you your deep appreciation and I think recall you championing some of the prevailing wage requirement provisions within PCEF. So again, I think your legacy, I think, is definitely felt within the program.
Well, I think that concludes our meeting. Sam, did you have a final comment? All right, everyone. Thank you, committee members and public members, and we'll look forward to seeing you in July.